Hello and welcome to Printing and Revit. We've got a lot to go over. Specifically, we're going to go over setting up your sheet, setting up your view, and then finally printing. All right, so I'm going to go back to our tiny house example, and everybody's tiny house is going to look slightly different. And specifically what I mean by that is if you look at our elevation markers that we have, I'm kind of over here in this quadrant. You could be dead center. You could be all the way over here. We're all going to be a little bit different, but that's okay. What I'd like to start out doing for printing is to show you guys how to add a sheet to the project. So over here in our project browser, if you pull down right here, you'll notice a new category called Sheets. And there are no sheets right now, and I know that because there are no plus signs next to it. But if I go ahead and right-click on where it says Sheets, you'll see that new sheet comes up. So again, from the project browser, scroll down, Sheets. There's no plus sign because there are no sheets. No sheet, man. Haha, sorry. I'm not though. I'll say sorry, but I'm really not. I'm shameless when it comes to my horrible jokes. So right click and then new sheet. And right now we have one option, and this is called an E1. And when we look for our paper size, remember size E. Size E is a 30 by 42. It's a really standard size of paper. It's a large sheet. And another large sheet that many of you probably use maybe in CAD, if you've taken CAD, is the Arch D, which is a 24 by 36. But again, right now we're going to be using the Arch E. So I'm going to click OK on that. And here's our sheet. So Revit gives us this sheet that has a whole bunch of stuff already filled in. If you take a look at our schedule, oh gosh, I think maybe around midterm-ish or so, right before midterm, we will go through on how to go ahead and customize this. But for now, under the owner, if you double click on it, go ahead and put your name there. I think it's so funny when people copy me exactly and they put me as like the assignment name. But just go ahead and put your name for now. And actually even under project name, go ahead and even put tiny house. That's as much as we'll do for or with the title block for now. But here's our sheet. And again, it's the 30 by 42. So it's 42 inches this way and 32 inches this way. It's really big. It's like the size of my 5-year-old daughter. And what we want to do is to pull level 1 onto this sheet. So these are views that can be dragged and dropped onto a sheet. So for example, while I'm in the sheet, if I go to my project browser, if I click on level 1, now I'm going to hold my mouse. So I'm clicking on it and holding. Can you see that 4-sided arrow with the plus sign? It means where do you want to add this view? And I'm going to come about center and drop it. And then you can see the view is here, but it's waiting for one more click to actually place it. So one more click, and there's my view. Level 1 at 1/8. Not bad, right? When we first started, I said I was going to show you a few things. So the first thing was how to get a sheet. We know our sheet man. Now the second thing is setting up our view. I think it's silly to have this giant piece of paper with this tiny little house on it. So what I'd like to do is to actually click on this view, and I know this is going to sound scary, and then just hit delete. So it does not delete level 1. Level 1's still there. It just deleted it off of our sheet so that we can set up the view. I'm going to hit undo, and I'm going to show you how to do that one more time. So again, click on the view, and don't double click on it, because if you double click on it, now you're actually in the view. Do you see how now my sheet's kind of grayed out? Okay, so if you double clicked in the view, double click to get back out so you see this line around where your floor plan is. And then again, just hit the delete key. Level 1 is still there. And once you've cleared it, double click on level 1 so that we can go back into that view and set it up. So again, I'm going to double click and I'm back here. So if you look at our project browser, I've still got my sheet here and I've got level 1 there. So again, Revit is just kind of building our windows as we click onto the different views. Now this is what I'd like to do for this view right here. And this will take so many steps the first time you print, it's kind of ridiculous. But remember all the other wonderful things Revit does for us. So be forgiving, it does a lot of really good things for us. So as usual, remember to pause and rewind as you need, maybe even slow down the speed if you need to. What we need to do is to go into our properties over here on the left. So I'm going to scroll down, and again, I'm on a tiny screen. So who knows how far I have to scroll down versus how far you have to scroll down. On my screen, it's about a little past halfway, and I'm looking for the extents. That's what I'm looking for. And what I'd like to see here is one of them says, I'm going to scooch this over so you can see it a little bit more, but I'd like to turn on crop view and also crop region visible. And then it'll take my computer a minute, but that'll eventually turn on. So if there's a little bit lag, don't worry. You can also hit apply. Eventually it'll turn on. And let me explain what this is. So the crop region visible is this box right here. And what this box is showing us is everything within this box is being printed. So remember when I said that we were printing like way too much for that giant piece of paper? What I'd like to do first is take my crop region box and scooch it down nice and close to the house. And remember, if I ever do an addition on this house, excuse me, then I can come back here and adjust my crop region to be larger. Okay, so I went ahead and just scooched everything in nice and tight. And then the other thing that I'd like to do is turn on crop view. I'm going to leave that on, but I don't want the crop region to be printed. To me, it just doesn't look very professional on the sheet, especially when you have more than one view. You're going to have a whole bunch of different squares. I just don't think it looks very nice. So let's deselect crop region visible. So that square is gone. And remember, we can turn it on later if you ever need to adjust it, but we want to keep crop view on. So now what I'm going to do, now that we've adjusted our view, that's the second part. So far we've done 2 out of the 3 steps. We've created a sheet, we have adjusted our view, and now the last thing to do will be to actually print it. So I'm going to let you think about this for a minute. If we're ready to print, where do we go? There's 2 options. We can go in our project browser, we can hit the plus sign and click on the sheet here, or you might still have it open right here. Let me go ahead and close this. I'm going to do it the long way, and double click right here, and it opens it right back up. That's how we can get back to our sheet. And eventually you're going to need several sheets. So, this is just the generic A101. We're going to talk about naming sheets much more as the classes progress. Our next, I say class, I mean module. So in our next module and the module after that, we'll do a whole section on sheet naming. But for now, the generic name is fine. But if you are using Revit in another class already, go ahead and add as many sheets as you want. They're free. So I'm going to come back up to my floor plans and I'm going to drop level 1 on here, and let's see how different it looks now that we have put those boundaries on. You see how now the view title is so much closer. It's not way out here because it had so much space. It's so nice. One thing I'd like to mention, as you guys are working, it's really easy to accidentally go to level 1 ceiling plan and not level 1 floor plan. So watch out for that. Again, I wouldn't mention it if it didn't happen at least to, 3 people every semester. So if it happens to you, no worries. Remember, even at this point, we've only been working in Revit maybe, let's say less than a day. I would say you guys are going pretty fast, like 2-3 hours, but less than a day for sure. Now, before we actually get to the printing part, I'm going to throw in a bonus thing that I didn't mention when we started the video, and that is view scale. View scale is so easy. The thing that's wonderful about Revit one of the dynamic things that I'll talk about is that when I click on this view, over here in the properties, it tells me the scale. It's at 1/8 inch. So if I click on the scale, I can take it up to 1/4 inch, which is more of a standard scale for floor plans. And it not only automatically adjusts the scale, but it automatically changes the viewport title to tell me that it's a 1/4 inch. That's awesome. Here's another thing that's awesome. Where it says level 1, if I come here to my floor plan and double click here to rename it, oh, nope, it didn't rename it, sorry. I am going to go back here. I'm going to right click, rename, and I'm going to change this to tiny house. Would you like to rename corresponding level and views? This time I'm going to say yes, and I'm also going to click do not show this message again. So yes, and take a look at that. It does so much coordination for you. It saves so much headache because remember, if we were doing this by hand, if you renamed it here, think about all the other places where you might have to go rename it, but it does it automatically. So it's pretty wonderful in that sense. Now, if you ever wanted to move the house on the sheet, what you would do is first click somewhere on the actual model. And did you notice that my cursor changed to a 4-sided arrow? Let me hit escape so I can do that one more time. So regular cursor, click on the actual architecture of the house. There we go. And then as soon as the 4-sided arrow comes up, you can move it. I'm going to move mine to the bottom right because if you think about a physical print, not a PDF print that you'll be sending me, but a physical print, think about it like a book. Most people start at this bottom right corner and kind of thumb through it. So it's nice to have something right there ready for them. So the way that you move a view, again, is just to click on the view, wait for that 4-headed arrow, and then move it. Now, another thing that you can do is move the view title. So to move the view title, click on the line of the view title, and you can move it independently of the viewport. So I can get this nice and aligned with the house. So again, move the house, and I can adjust the view title as I move the house, okay? But do you notice that I can't actually move the view title? So as you move the, let me call it the view, not the house. As you move the view, you can also adjust the length of this view title to match your model. But to move the view title, again, I'm just clicking off so that my cursor resets to the normal cursor. And then I can click on this and then again, move it independently. In Revit, we'll show you when you've aligned to your model. Let me do that again. It just kind of snaps it. You see that blue line popping up? Again, I'm on a laptop with not the best graphic card. It's trying its hardest to keep up with me. So there we go. I think my view is set up. And if I wanted to, look what happens if I take it up to 1/2 inch. I kind of have to adjust everything one more time. See how I have a dimension coming off the screen? Let's be perfect and precise. It's our main job. So first I scooched it over. The viewport isn't visible, so this part's okay to overlap. I just didn't want the dimension going over. And then I'm going to click on the view again. I'm going to extend this out so it aligns with my view. And then I'm going to click on the view title, and I'm going to try to move it up if it lets me. There we go. I'm just going to move it up a little bit. There we go. So now that I've completed all of that, I'm ready to print. But again, from the top, what I did is I started off here in my tiny house floor plan. I came down to the sheet menu and I right clicked and I went to new sheet. And in this specific template, there's only one sheet size to pick from. Do you remember what letter it was? Letter E. I feel like Mr. Rogers. He always talk to the screen. Hey, boys and girls. Anyway, so we created a new sheet, which was this sheet right here. And I did a couple of edits on the title block. I put my name, I put tiny house, and that's just an easy double click to pull that up. So it's essentially one click to select it. Well, that time it just did one click, one or two clicks, depending on how good you are. And then to actually get the floor plan on here, again, it's a simple drag and drop. I can't put more than one floor plan. So look, if I try to drag it on, it'll be like, what? You already have this view here. You can't do that. So I'm just going to close out of it. But that's how you do it. We also went back into Tiny House and we adjusted our view. Now over here in Properties, do you remember what that menu was called? It wasn't called Printing. It was called Extents. It's essentially setting the extents of your model. Now we want crop region on to adjust, but we don't want it on when we print. So again, that takes my graphic card a minute, so don't freak out if you don't see it right away. And then after you're done adjusting that, keep crop view on so that it actually crops the view to that size. And then over here, I moved it around. I resized it to a 1/2 inch scale. I also adjusted the name of the floor plan to show you that it automatically updates here. That's another benefit of BIM modeling. And finally, after all that, I am ready to print. That'll be the last step that we do. We can actually send it to our printer. So if you are at this point and you haven't downloaded a PDF printer yet, please do that first. So this is the part where you will need one of the PDF printers that I suggested because we need the large paper sizes. So this next step is also a step where there are many little spots where you could get tripped up, and I'm going to try to help you along the way. So buckle up, here we go. So in our sheet menu, what we want to do, there's several ways of getting here. You can hit this cute little printer. You can see as I clicked on that, or I'm just hovering on it, Control P is also a shortcut. It tells me right there. Or you can go to File and then Print. Either way, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm a control kind of girl, so I like Control P, and it takes us to this menu. So the first thing you want to do is set your printer. The reason why you want to do that is unless you have the right printer selected, you won't see the right paper size. So make sure that's the first thing that you do. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the Settings Setup in the bottom right-hand corner. So go ahead and click on Setup for me. And then from here, we are going to start setting up. So name default is just fine. Paper, do you remember, boys and girls, what size paper we're working with today? It is the Arch E. Archie Comics. Okay, we're going to start with Arch E. That's our 30 by 42. We want to center it, and watch this because in other versions, this thing changes. We always want it centered. We don't want it to fit to the page. What that does is, let's say we accidentally picked a smaller size of paper, it'll shrink it down to fit, and that ruins our scale. So we do not want to shrink to fit. We always want to zoom 100%. So here we go. This is the part that I don't love. When I clicked on zoom to fit, do you see how even though I said center, it's like, oh, I'm going to offset it from the corner now. No, I want you to center it. Okay, I wish they would change the order of this. I don't like that you have to go backwards. And those are the only things that you need to adjust. So again, we just made sure it was cute PDF, Arch E, and this could change depending on whether you're printing an 11 by 17, maybe an Arch D, but just set the correct size, zoom it to 100%, and then center it. Okay. Now, if that looks good to you, go ahead and click OK. And right now, it's telling me that this is where it's going to save my PDF. Now, this isn't where I typically save stuff, so I'm going to click on Browse and change where that's saving it. So you go ahead, and I hope that at this point, somewhere on your computer or wherever you're working, maybe a cloud drive, you have a Revit folder. And in that Revit folder, I'm going to make a new folder called Tiny House. So all of my Tiny House prints and Revit models go in here. So Tiny House, that looks great. And then I'm going to hit save. And then there's one more thing that I need to do before I hit send. So in print range, what I need to do is go to selected views and sheets, and I want to select what I'm printing. So these are all of my views, but I'm looking for sheets. So I'm going to select on sheet A101. And even though I'm only printing one sheet today, in the future, we're going to be doing several sheets as we build a set, as we start making sheets for our other floor plans, our elevations, interior elevations, sections, you name it. We're going to select all of them here from this menu. So go ahead and select on A101 and then OK. Do you want to save these? No, I don't want to save these yet because it's just one sheet. I'm just checking this. And then once we've got that, we're finally ready to hit OK. And this is great. This is a little warning that it's giving us. So if I had 10 sheets and I selected separate files, I could say, oh no, I don't want to continue because I do want to combine them into a single file. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And you can see it's thinking. And now Cute PDF takes over. So remember I told Revit like where to go, what to do. Now Cute PDF is like, wait, where did you tell me to print? So I have to tell it again that on the desktop, there's a Revit folder, there's a Tiny House folder, and I want to put it in here. Okay. And I don't want to open it yet. I'm just going to save it. I don't like the whole automatic open when I'm done. So here's a couple previews for you. You may have read in the notes of this lecture that I incorrectly chose the paper size, so even the pros get it wrong sometimes. When I look at your assignments, this is what I'm looking for. I want to make sure that your title block actually fits the sheet. So let me show you the difference between this incorrect size and this correct size. Do you see that the title block perfectly fits the sheets and there's not a margin around any of the sides? So this is what I'm looking for on the E1 sheet. So hopefully you guys caught that in the notes, and this is what your preview looks like. The other thing that's also really helpful is when you turn off fit to sheet, if you have too small of a paper size, you might get a crop view. Like if you look at where I'm kind of drawing, you might get just a small view like this. So that's another indication that you may have selected the incorrect paper size. So again, I'm going to keep this assignment open so that you guys can keep trying in case you get it right, like the first time, the second time. We'll keep trying until you get it right. And this assignment will just make future printing that much easier. Welcome back. So I obviously had such a good summer that I forgot how to print, or at least select my sheet size. So when I go to print, what I needed to do was in settings, I selected Arch E. There is an Arch E1, and that'll eliminate the extra border around my sheet size that you saw in the preview. So go ahead and select Arch E1. I'm going to put it in the notes of the lecture to ignore me and select Arch E1 so that you don't have those extra borders that you saw in the preview. So go ahead and that'll take care of that.